kids don't want to be doctors or lawyers. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Everyone wants the trips, the planes, the cars, the green, baby. But how do you do it? How do you get it? Welcome to Brain Drop. Brain Drop. The ultimate podcast where we bring you the secrets and strategies of 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs who've mastered the art of growing their companies through cutting-edge marketing and sales tactics. It's not about lame theories. It's about actionable, proven tactics that'll take your business to new heights. This is Brain Drop. Brain Drop. And now your host, Joshua T. Osborne.
Hey folks, welcome to Brain Drop. Today we got a special guest, Scott Kaplan here, the mastermind behind Quick Hit Sales Tips. This guy's been in the trenches of sales for over 25 years, and he's got some battle-tested tips to share today. So Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Absolutely. It's great having you here. So Scott, let's dive in. So you've been in sales now for over a quarter century. So tell us, how did you get started in this crazy world of sales, man?
It is a crazy world, but I love it. And I don't think I could really do anything else. So I'd like to say I was the born salesperson. I say I've been professionally selling for 25 years, but I can remember back when I was selling back when I was 6 years old doing yard sales. I was raised by salespeople. My parents were in sales. Dinner conversations was about sales. And as I went into the profession of what do I want to do with my life, sales was the thing that came to life pretty easy. But yeah, it's something that I've loved doing. And also, as I progressed and understood sales, I love being able to help people sell. Not just so they can make a lot of money, but if you're selling and making a lot of money, you're helping clients. You're providing value. You're giving back. And I love finding that synergy and having people succeed in that area.
Hell yeah. You got any stories from the old days? I mean, 25 years ago from today. Give me the best story you got from the old days.
Well, I'll say the first story where I realized I was a good salesperson or I was in sales or liked sales. Goes back to when I was 6 years old, right? So I'm living in an apartment complex, right? And so you got, a bunch of different floors of different things. We're on the bottom floor. And the stairs go up. There's those little nook and crannies. So I put out teddy bears or other things, do a little yard sale. Guy comes by with his girlfriend, I assume at the time, right? And she starts looking at one of my teddy bears. Oh, here, hold my teddy bear. You can have it. Like, doesn't your girlfriend look so good with the teddy bear? Oh, what? Yeah. The teddy bear speaks to me. It says how much he wants to be with you, a loving person, right? I'd hate to deprive your girlfriend of this opportunity. So what's $10 for a dirty, old, mangly teddy bear from the 70s?
Heck yeah.
That's good. Go ahead, Sean. How would you have coached 6-year-old you? You're a sales trainer these days. Explain sales to a 6-year-old.
It's very sensitive. Listen, everyone sells something, right? You want to sell an idea why I should give you ice cream or why you should get to stay up late or watch a show. You have to understand, what is it that you're going to go out there and give and get? Why would that person allow you to do it? What do they get? What's their needs? Hey, I know I've been a pain in the butt, or hey, you want me to help you with the chores tomorrow? If I can get this, can I get, if I help you with this, can I get this? So understanding, we all sell something. Whether you have a commission plan or not is totally different. We all sell our ideas, our concepts, our desires, our wants. And I love it when I see my one of 5, or how many kids I have 5 kids. I love when I see one of them sell me, right? Not that they're trying to convince me or get me to do something I don't want to do, but how they can think about things, position things, understand those different dynamics to find that win-win so they can get what they want. I got no problem with that.
To live is to sell, as they say. I like it.
100%.
Teaching them young.
Right.
Yeah. Well, speaking about that, I mean, 25 years, with everything kind of going digital nowadays, right? Because that's kind of the way we see it. Everything's going digital. How do you see the sales landscape kind of changing, right?
So there's lots of different changes, and I work in a lot of high-tech style companies. A lot of my clients tend to be, these SaaS-based companies, not exclusively, right? But I do a lot with these high volume, massive growth style companies of what they're trying to get to. So yeah, there's a lot of things that have changed from understanding customers. You can understand a lot more in customers, as well as customers can understand you a lot more digitally. We all heard the stats, how customers are X% of the way through the process of buying before they ever talk to a salesperson. Yeah. Well, that's because of digital assist, right? There's more information out there. There's more resources. There's reviews. There's all these different places for people to get information. And so what we want to make sure that we can do is understand, where are they at? And a lot of people shy away from engaging of, hey, Josh, Sean, like, where did you get that information? Where did you, see from me or hear from me? Let's talk about those different dynamics so we can engage in a good dialogue. So, hey, what did you see that you liked about those different things? Or as you were searching for the other people, what are some of the things that you've seen, maybe that I haven't had a chance to talk with you about that are really important to you, right? Yeah. So you can bring up and leverage this idea of digital aspects in your things. Yeah. But also, digital lets you have more scale. It lets you have more opportunities. You can hit more people. Now, we got to do it effectively. We got to do it appropriately. It doesn't mean you just mass, shoot, 500, 5,000 emails out a day and expect gravy to come in. You got to do it methodically, and you got to do it properly. But it gives us the opportunity to scale. We can see more, do more, access more, understand more, communicate more. And so you got to leverage those digital experiences to be effective, whether it's AI and LLMs and doing those types of things, or being able to do different research and understand those different dynamics to properly communicate and engage clients.
Where are you seeing it on like the sales training side? Because you're obviously very heavily involved in the training side with AI and tools like Gong and Fathom and these different tools that are using AI to extract insights out of things. How are you seeing that, especially in your portfolio companies with these high growth, like tech enterprise kind of companies?
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot, whether it's the Gongs of the world, which have done great things. And, I talked to their CEO, probably 7 years ago when he was first getting started. Loved what he was doing over there in Israel and bringing it to the States and everything. So, but it's not just Gong. It's a lot of different types of sales collaboration, sales enablement, sales intelligence, communication style softwares. But all those digital aspects, again, just help make it so we can better understand. Now, Gong will do a good job of saying, here's what happened. Here's what things that happen. What we as strong sellers, strong sales leaders, strong sales coaches need to do is, okay, now what? How do we take this, what happened, to transform it to where we need it to go? And being able to have that type of foresight and capabilities. And that's where I think maybe some of these tools are actually a little bit lacking. They tell you what happened. Zoom will give me great information. Here's what happened in your meeting, right? Here's all those different things. Here's your different reach points. But it doesn't understand, where am I in my sales process, tied to where the customer is in their buying process, to know how do I want to leverage these things go forward. So that's where I look for tools to say, how do we get more proactive in this step to make sure it's not just reiterating back what you heard or coaching on what you heard. It's also coaching on what you should have been doing or what you could have been doing. Not, hey, you missed this question, but did you see when you asked this question how it needs to lead to X, Y, and Z? And so I think that we're doing well in that category and those things. But if you really want to understand those deals and the progression, you got to think about not just what you did, but how does it help move and progress it forward with customer alignment, with customer centricity.
Yeah, here's a huge thing for us, because as you get, we run a team of 16 salespeople, right? So we're doing sales every day on a high ticket. And so one thing that was really big that me and him discuss all the time is about the human element, right? Because if you work in so much automation, how can you ensure they're still building genuine relationships as they're using all this AI and stuff? So and how do you make sure that trust with the client or the prospect's still there? So how would you suggest going about that with all the automation that's going on nowadays?
Well, here's the easy answer that I think a lot of people don't do. Ask them. Yeah. Ask them. Hey, Joshua, I want to earn your trust. I want to make sure that I've answered the questions, not just to what you've asked, but also the forward-looking things that are really important to you. I want to make sure, Sean, that I'm a good partner for you and can be able to answer the needs that you're asking me, but also how I can think for those second, third, fourth steps. And then from there, you can engage with questions. Hey, so what do you think you need from me? Or let me tell you some ways I've done this with others. So whether you're suggesting, whether you're asking, some combination thereof, I don't necessarily care, but that's obviously where you hope it will go, right? And those different pieces. But it's about making sure that you can have the opportunity to, one, highlight what is it that I do that you might need, or some people call that a wide change message. Why is it that this person needs me to talk to me and understand me? And then two, I got to prove I'm the right solution. So why would you change with me, right? Why do you like my style of training? Just because I said I've trained 20,000 people doesn't mean you're going to like my training, right? That doesn't necessarily, because I say I have an international best-selling book doesn't mean you're going to like my book. It might not meet the right book for you or your team. So we've got to make sure we understand those different dynamics. And I love brutal honesty in the process. There's nothing better than just being able to, especially in difficult situations or ambiguous situations, hey, here's where I'm at. No, hey, Sean, hey, Josh, here's where I'm at. I'm just kind of curious to know, do you agree with X? Do you agree with Y? Do you want to see X? Do you want to see Y? Just having the brutal honesty. Others have liked to see this for this reason. Does that relate to you? But we shy around the question, and we don't want to ask it to just get that brutal honesty. I got no problem if someone doesn't want to do business with me. I'd rather that be a conscious choice as to why they don't, right? Or why they can't right now.
That's great. So let's talk about mistakes for a second, right? Because obviously all this automation, all this digital online kind of stuff. What's some common pitfalls that you see with sales teams right now that they're falling into when they're integrating these technologies? Because I know when we started, and we're constantly integrating. As you know, most sales team, we're constantly testing, integrating, moving things in, moving things out, really trying to make sure that we're staying in the forefront of this. Because some of them really do make a lot of money and make a lot of sense for our team. Yet others kind of fall short, right, with the technologies. But what are some of the biggest fails or fails that you see these people making when it comes to moving into new technology?
So with technology, a lot of people will sometimes buy a piece of technology, don't know how to implement it, don't know how to support it, don't know how to train upon it, don't know how to institutionalize it, where it's a benefit for the sales process, right? And so great example, back in the day when I was first starting to do a lot more of my kind of training, it was on systems like CRM systems as they were going. And I never took the approach. This is why this is a system that you need to use from a management perspective, always from the rep perspective. What is it you need to go out there and do? Why is it important for you? How does it help you close your deals, get better insight, be able to track, keep alignment of what you've done, need to do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So having a good formulation of what I want the tool to do, how do I design it for the people that need it in a way that's easy to use, as simplistic as possible, but also understands kind of the forward thing. Like, if you're doing CRM stuff, you're going to have data issues. How do you get more proactive in what those different dynamics are to overcome those at a later point in time? You're going to have issues with rep usage or following your process. So how do you proactively bring it up into training, into coaching, into different dynamics where you meet with your reps to make sure you can proactively overcome those different pieces. So that's where I see a lot of people fall down on the technology side of things that don't make the right type of tool effective for their workforce, effective for how they need to go out there and engage in a way that is reproducible, that is scalable for growth.
Do you typically, with your teams, are you going to mandate that there's 100% consistency and usage of that tool across an entire team if you're going to choose to onboard it into a company? Because we've had issues with that in the past where, half the sales team loves the tool, it's expensive, the other half couldn't care less for it. How do you see bridging that gap and communicating to the team how this is really going to impact their ability to do what they do best, which is sell?
Yeah, so it depends on the team. I'll say how I've done it before. There's been certain teams I've said, listen, guys, I'm not going to play the game of why aren't you updating? You're just going to update your CRM and we're not going to have this conversation. If you don't understand how, you don't understand where, hey, fine, that's cool. That's training, that's coaching. We can do that. But I'm just not going to play this game. It's just a hard line in the sand. Now, there's also some situations where your sellers might be partners. They might be 100% commission only type partners where they're still employees, but not kind of employee. So there's exceptions. There's exceptions to every rule. But for the most part, if you design it well and you design it with regards to what the sellers need to go out there and do to be effective, you need to teach them how this helps them win deals, and doing this is making it more effective for them. And that's where we miss. It's, no, Sean, go update your Salesforce. No, Sean, go update your pipeline so we know what deals you need to work on, where you need help with those different deals, where you are in winning those deals. Really look at your key next steps compared to others to see how you're going to go effectively do this. And I want it on a centralized low pace so that we can see ways of going out there and be productive with it. And if you've done it for one, you've probably done it for another and another before that. Yeah. So use your resources to be effective. Now, that's a different conversation that I rarely hear people have. And I even see, Joshua, you're smiling as I was saying. You're like, yeah, no one's freaking talking about that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's awesome. Let's dial into this too. Like, I think you guys are on a really good section here of just talking standards, right? And so, like, when it comes to running a sales team and running closers, like, how important is standards really at the end of the day? I know for us, like, when I first got into it, just to give you an idea, like, we'd hire a sales team, we'd set standards on the team, we'd start growing and grinding and doing a good job, and then, you know, as the cat is away, the mice will play. So me and him would go out to freaking Cancun or whatever, and then we'd look back and all of our standards are down here, and we'd get down and we'd baby people back into it. Like, how important are standards? And are you the type of person when you're running a team to where if those people fall below that standards, whether it's you outplaying and so you're not holding them accountable, or whether it's just them not holding themselves accountable, do you just let them go? Do you work with them? What do you do? Like, let's talk a little bit about standards, KPIs, and the things in which you're looking at with running a sales team and keeping culture too, because culture is extremely important when it comes to sales teams, when it comes to teams in general. And so I know that you know, culture is built into those KPIs and those standards as well, right?
I would hope so. Is it always? Not necessarily. But if your culture is a culture of, we want to be an effective sales force, and to do that, here's the different actions, here's the different metrics, here's how we look at the business, here's how we talk to the business. Great. Where it has difficulty, you don't keep standards consistent across different team members. Oh, this person's producing, so they don't have to do this process.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if the process is right, wouldn't they be producing more if they followed the process? Right. Okay. Well, so we have to be cognizant of how many exceptions that we're making. But there are certain environments where process is critical. If you have a high throughput type of environment, i.e., you're getting a lot of leads, you have short times, you have very competitive information, those standards of quick response time, I need to call this person within 5 minutes of that lead submission, is critical. There's other industries where that is not nearly the case. So we got to look at it individually. What I will say, though, anything that you want to do well, you need to have some degree of process that you keep this standard with across the board. I don't care if it's working out, having good health in terms of eating or other different types of dynamics. Obviously, in sales, I am watching so much Olympics right now, and I could tell you everything that these people have been doing for years is about process. Yeah. So that you can go out there and maneuver on the fly. So a lot of people think, oh, I want to have the flexibility. I want to be able to do this. Great, have the flexibility. But if you have a process, you can be a lot more structured in how you have flexibility, meaning I know where I can flex left, flex right, flex up, flex down, and I know how to get it back on track and keep it in the process. Yeah. So a lot of people think, oh, you're stifling me. No, I want to teach you how to do it effectively. I want to show you how it can be done effectively. I want you to take your words, your style, your tonality, the way in which you speak, and put it into the process. I want to give you scripts as examples of how to take the process and work. I don't want to say you have to use my script because that's my script. I need you to take it for your own. So I love metrics. I love processes. I love to make sure we can do it, but we got to make sure we do it in a way that, one, we're being effective with it to go out there and really execute all across the board. And the last thing I'll also say is, if we all execute properly in the same way, when we look at a deal, if I'm stepping in to help, you, Sean, on a deal, right? Or Joshua and I are stepping in. Hey, you're in this stage. We know where you're at. We know what we've talked about. We understand where we need to fit to be effective. Yeah. And so it helps that dialogue of where are we in deals? What do we need to do? How people can help you, whether they're on the call or giving you ideas of how they want others. If you have that continuity, if you have that consistency or process, right? Or numbers or metrics. Those are the things that help you say, now we know areas of success. And this is also where we can drive upon those to give incremental gains. And every little 0.25%, 0.5% here gives you the incremental gains to win more business.
Yeah. How important do you think it is in like training these people in their personal life? Like you mentioned eating and the impact that something as simple as that can have on the performance of like a sales rep. Like when you're training people, how involved do you get in like the personal life and their own like goal setting and life outside of the workplace context to be able to actually like excel as a salesperson?
Depends. I mean, there are some of my coaching clients that have been friends now for years, decades. That's a little bit of a different situation where I can cross that threshold. What I can do is I can highlight how what we do, whether it is health, whether it's playing an instrument or singing or performing, whether it's doing really a good job as a lawyer or as a doctor, we all need process. We all need structure. We all need to go out there and do it. I go to the chiropractor every week. I want to make sure he has a process before he just gets my neck and tries to shake it around. If he does that, I don't want to go to him. Got to be a process. Right? So I think people forget we all have process for these things throughout our entire life. We've done a lot of things that are structurally kind of sound and built upon. What we have to make sure that we do is figure out what is that right way in which we need to operate for ourselves. Now, doesn't mean sellers can have carte blanche to do whatever they want, however they want. However, if they've proven to do well, we want to learn from them. We want to understand them and say, okay, how did you attack this vertical, this persona, this use case really well? Let's learn from that so we can be effective. But it doesn't mean they go off the guardrails and do whatever they want, however they want, and have chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Digging into teams a little bit more. By the way, I'm doing this, and this might be a little bit leaning towards kind of what I want to learn from you. But obviously, we manage a large sales team, and I'm constantly around salespeople. I really am intrigued by you and the things you do with Goldman Sachs and different companies, and especially SaaS. In case you don't know, me and John also own a SaaS company as well. And so, just around that in general, it's like, what are some of the biggest tips if you had to go with, for instance, a SaaS company that's just getting out there, and it's a sales SaaS company that has like pipelines and calling features and automations for emails and all that kind of stuff, and getting ready to get out there. What are some of the biggest tips you would give somebody just starting out in the SaaS industry with the sales? What is it that they need to pay attention to the most?
Okay, there's probably a lot within that, but I'll break it down.
Yeah, there's a lot. You gotta unpack the whole thing now.
I'll say within SaaS, what we typically see are founder-led organizations trying to go out there and grow. Someone who had an idea, who built something that they think is going to help, become a market leader, right? Or they're trying to get that. So the first thing you're going to do is, where's my product market fit? Where do I really go out there and fit? I know that's a kind of a generic phrase, but if you look it up and really study product market fit, it's really, how do I get to our roughly first $10 million? Take that number with a grain of salt. But if you guys have started your business and you guys are going out there and trying to create, reproducible outcomes, unless you've figured out someone who knows you, who's a good rep, who believes in you, then fine, you add the 1 or 2 reps. But for the most part, it's that initial core. They have to go out there and sell that first $5, $10, $15 million. They understand the product, why it's built, and you're going to make the adjustments to make sure, where do we really fit within the marketplace? Okay, now we're fitting with this use case, this individual or persona, this type of industry. You're starting to see different things come to life where you're having success. Now that's where you need to continue to build upon, where does this give me an opportunity to build a sales team in that type of channel or in that type of region to go out there and try to grow it. So that's where you'll see some teams start off just open market anywhere across the U.S., high-level ICP. As they continue to grow with their product market fit, they add new products. Now we have an SMB, we have a mid-market, we have an enterprise. And you see this, segregation of sales teams to say, now we want to slice out the market. And this goes back to things like Dell days when they were in the 90s and just growing significantly and everything else. They said, okay, we're just thinking, we're going to create an education unit. We're going to create a government unit. We're going to create a small business unit. And these then units went from small sales to huge sales. Now they do the same thing, but they have a whole, storage, huge platform. We could argue the same thing with Amazon. Are they giving you movies with Prime, or are they giving you AWS, right? Well, Amazon's giving you all of it, right? Those different types of things, not to mention 16 deliveries a day, right? So it's just about making sure that we can understand really how do we go out there, get that right product market fit? How do we then get to scale across it? And then you're also going to do more in SaaS. You're adding more products for add-ons and expansion, or you're doing acquisition for the same reasons, customer growth and everything else. Well, now we need to make sure that goes back to product market fit. So you have multiple different products and or platforms that are within these different stages to have the growth. But then as you grow from, let's say, that 10 million to a 20 million, you're going to have more scale of teams and growth. You go from 20 to 50, that's where you get a lot more segmentation of your teams, different territory, different geos, different products. As you continue to scale to 100, 130, 100, 300 million, those continue to have evolutions. And so when I work with companies, it's like, where are you in that process? And the way that I work with a company that's sub 10 million versus 50 million versus 150 million versus a billion plus are very, very different, right? With what they need, how they need it.
What's the biggest company you've worked with? And now you pique my interest because you're like $1 billion. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? So now you pique my interest. What's the biggest company you've worked with running sales team?
3.5
and you're allowed
billion.
to say. I know they're
3.5 billion.
3.5 billion. Holy shit! Wow.
No, I didn't necessarily run the whole team, but I was part of a 3.5 billion. Very much involved with running their sales operations, right? So I had all of those different types of. So anything that went in and out of sales was coming through me and my team, right? And so we had all those different types. And enablement was part of sales operations at the time. It's not always, but it was at that time, right? So kind of leveraging those different types of dynamics that come into play. So it's.
Go ahead.
No, finish it. Go ahead.
What would you say separates like the business that's, trying to peak over 10, they're doing like 8, 9, 10 million versus someone that's doing 50? What's like the meaningful differences within that sales organization, and specifically how you're going to train and grow people effectively to follow the systems and the processes, hit KPI, and do what they need to do? What are the
so it's a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit more of an in-depth answer to what I was giving before. So when you have 50, 60 million, you have more people, you have more resources, you're going to have more sales operations, more product marketing, maybe some degrees of different sales enablement. You're going to have more people helping to drive those functions. You're going to have more industry, more geos. You're going to have more use cases. You're going to have more products. So those things is what helps drive a lot more of that increase in revenue. Obviously, you're going to have more people that are associated with it, or in theory, typically have more people that go along with it. Again, exceptions to every rule. That 8, 9, $10 million company, again, is probably still just figuring out their product market fit. And I've worked with a lot of companies that might be a 40 or $50 million, but they're in South America trying to make it to the U.S. where there's zero in U.S. Great. So you don't have product market fit in the U.S. You're going into a $3 billion market that's already out there. You're not going to have the same success of what you do in Brazil and some of these other countries in South America that you are going to have in the U.S. initially. You have to go back to how do we form this and get the CEOs, CTOs, those people to help drive. This is why we're good and we're going to work in America, and I got the backing to support to go out there and do it. Sales rep can't do that. They don't have the panache to go out there and say, or even the capability to say, I can change the way we build this product. I can change the resources that are out there. That's where your engineering, head of product, CTOs, those things. That's where your head of customer success, your head of sales, your head of operations, obviously your head of the company, the CEO, can do these things. So executive selling can really help drive that initial. That's why I say they have to be very involved that first $5-10 million.
Love it. That's awesome. I have a shock to the system. What do you think like a blue collar business could learn? So a lot of like the people that we coach or work with, they're like blue collar, like construction workers, things like that. I know we've been talking a lot about like SaaS and enterprise and tech and all that type of stuff, but the idea of a local roofer trying to implement AI kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies. So what advice or what do you think like that type of blue collar business could learn from a bigger SaaS enterprise style of selling?
Yeah, and a lot of my let's say work over the years has been providing solutions for those, to some extent blue collar, but also I'll say emergency responses. If it's the locksmiths, of the world, it's these other people, that help you out. And it's amazing what I've seen these people do more in the kind of this B2C, business to consumer type of environment. The answer doesn't really necessarily change though. Everybody sells something. As a roofer, you have expertise. You have product expertise. You have knowledge expertise of how things get built. And you're talking with people who don't have that expertise. So you need to teach them. You need to make sure they understand what they need to know so that they understand what this current situation is with you or with any other roofer. And then from there, how do you take your expertise and say, I'm the right roofer to go out there and help you, and make sure that they understand that and can provide that, and you can prove that you can meet their needs in theory better than anyone else. So it's a communication. Now, whether you call those sales skills, or whether you call it communication, whether you call it closing skills, understanding skills, needs assessment skills, right? Value positioning. I don't care what you call it, but those are the different items, skills, talk tracks, engagements that a roofer is going to have when he's talking with someone who has an issue with their roof. And he's also going to know there's going to be certain hesitations, fears, concerns, i.e., what do you mean $20,000, $30,000, $40,000? Sticker shock, for more point, right? So how he can or she can be more proactive with how do I help bring these things in? Or how do I help leverage? I have other resources and tools to help you finance this so that you can protect your house. You can protect the people in your house, because that's the fear. I'm going to lose value. I'm going to have a leaky roof when I have a baby, or I have an elderly parent that's sick. That's the fear they have. And it's, I can't pay. So understand where people come from so that you can say, I understand these situations. Let me help you with it in the best way I know how. And if I help you in the best way I know how, hopefully I've earned your business. If not, it's not the right match. Okay, move on.
Yeah. That's
All right. So, given all that, what do you think the next big thing in the sales technology is going to be? I'll give you an example. I Sean doesn't agree to this. I think at some point there's going to be some kind of like augmented reality to where, like, instead of going down to Nike, people are going to be able to jump in their computer, try on the shoe with the sales rep sitting right next to them, and there's going to be like sales happening online, just like you would if you walked in and somebody's roof. Like, for instance, like roofing, at some point, you're not going to have to get on roofs anymore, but you could show up in some augmented reality and say, here's your roof size, here's the damage that you have, this is what it's going to cost to fix, and then send it off to insurance, and you're going to be able to do it all digitally with satellites, all kinds of stuff. But that may be 10, 15 years down the road. But what do you think is the next big thing in sales technology?
Well, I mean, being in the middle of 2024, if I don't say AI, anyone who listens to me would just think I'm full of crap. Right? But the question is, what do we mean by AI? And so here's a great example. I use ChatGPT to go out there and do all my follow-up emails or my introductory emails. And I tell ChatGPT what to do. Okay. But you have to know what those prompts are to be able to make sure, how do I go out there and do it effectively, hit the right different pieces, and also still make it sound like you. So there's a lot of advancement, right, of what we're seeing in the world of AI, what we can do, what we can understand in our conversations. How does that turn into ways we want to go out there and do action items, follow up? We see a lot of commercials these days of how they're taking meeting notes and being able to do it. It's not there as much as the commercial is touting it. But that, I think, is where the evolution is going to go, specifically in sales. Yes, is there discussion and people talking about augmented salespeople? Of course. It's not new, though, guys. We've talked about this type of thing for a long time. It just looks better now. It's quicker now.
Right? It's cool.
And
it's awesome.
It's better. Right? Is it the end-all, be-all? No. It has wrong information. Well, it's ironic. I think salespeople sometimes have wrong, or people in general have wrong information too, right? They have wrong sources, confuse the sources, et cetera, et cetera. I think what we're seeing, though, is that we need to be able to do a lot more as effectively as possible to understand the customer, right? Understand their needs and their environment. And that's where I see technology and the future kind of coming into of sales, is how do we better equip and arm a seller to know what they need to go out there and do and how they do things, and even people who aren't salespeople, right? So think about how all these customer success, large organizations that we call, have different forms of automation. They're putting in processes, automation, AI, technology, whatever you want to call it, to help communicate with customers. Hey, would you take this survey so they can see what we did well, what we didn't do well? It puts in checks and balances. If you as a rep know I'm going to be giving a survey answer afterwards, you might change your behavior, right? So we know things are coming. What we just have to be cognizant of is not like technology drive for the sake of having technology being a driver. How is technology going to help us be effective with our engagements to go out there to be quicker, to be more scalable, to be more value add, to hit more types of clients in a way that's effective for the clients and how they want to go out there and buy compared to how we want to go out there and sell. If you do those things, you can keep things in check and you have the right motivation for the technology advancements you want to go out there and have.
It's good. What do you think about blockchain when it comes to sales? I know everybody's talking about blockchain when it comes to real estate and tracking contracts. What about sales in general? Do you think blockchain is going to be used at some point for sales contracts and to really solidify sales quickly? I know for us, one of the biggest things that we go through is obviously we sell high ticket. So getting a contract signed and getting it sent back and it's a long, big process. And I feel like blockchain can almost streamline a lot of that when it comes to this.
To some extent, blockchain can streamline the nuance and the individual pieces to separate and pull together different data points at any point in time. If we think about the basics of blockchain. Okay. Yep. What are the points? So if you're talking about a contract pieces, how I can bifurcate certain parts of the information, say this needs to go to compliance, this needs to go to legal, this needs to go to other parts of the business. Sure. So there's lots of RFP style systems that are out there. That you can go out there and that will help bifurcate information, help bring information, whether it's knowledge resources or who you need to go out there and do. So those types of things are already out there and exist in the marketplace today. Where I see some potential of blockchain is to help with things that are very automation based and incredibly reliant upon. So there might be more checks and balances, looking at some different pieces of what we want to go out there and do to then help correlate what we're going to go out there and see the success with. I don't see as much discussion on blockchain compared to AI. Now, I have a feeling if you really look back some of the foundational things, there's probably a lot of overlap that comes in there. But at the high level, most people can't really define the difference really what's AI, LLMs, blockchain, right? The real, those are technology and technology space types of specifics. The average user doesn't know that and doesn't see that. A CRO is not necessary, unless they love blockchain, is not researching, CRO, Chief Revenue Officer. They're not researching what is the right blockchain technology to help my sales force to go out there and get me effective. They're saying, what are the gaps that I have and what will help me? People, process, technology, and then you can get into is it AI technology, blockchain, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so let's lighten it up a bit, okay? If you could have dinner with any 3 sales legends, who would they be and why?
Probably Zig Ziglar, just because he's like the old school, awesome guy that's out there. And I could substitute that out. Give me Sandler, give me Zig Ziglar. Gosh, I might even, those types of guys. I think I just started from the beginning. Another one would be Jordan Belfort. I mean, I like his podcasts and his stuff that's out there. He's unique. I think I just want to hear what stories are really real about the Wolf of Wall Street versus what's not necessarily else, but I just want to know what was the truth of
what is it? What actually took place? Yeah,
he talks about some of the stories. That's more for fun and everything else. And then I'd also would probably say if I had to talk, there are some people that I love, and I'm a big admirer of people who do what I do. I don't consider them competition. I consider them peers, and I can learn from them just as much as they can learn from me. So there are certain people that I like their podcasts. And I would love to have just kind of public discussion about how we really think through some of those different dynamics. So whether it's Samantha McKenna from Sam Sales, Jeffrey Gitomer and his wife, and they're kind of going through those different things. I just mentioned the Wolf of Wall Street with Jordan Belfort. I can give you a bunch of other different names that come into play. I'm a sales geek though too. I got tons of books. I read a ton of podcasts. And so I learned from all these different dynamics. I've been trained on so many different systems over the years. And that's what I think what's helped me become not just a good seller, and not just a good coach, but also help me to figure out how do I have my own sales methodology to help people grow out there and grow as well. And so, I think there's probably a lot of people that I would love to sit down and talk with and figure things out. And while people say sales has changed quite a bit, I don't know if it has. The fundamentals, I don't think have necessarily changed. How we act upon those fundamentals, sure. You didn't have cadence systems because you didn't have email, many, many years ago, right? Yeah. Or, right? So, of course, that process has changed. But doing customer reach outs in a way that's effective and consistent, didn't we used to call that door-to-door sales? Right? Yeah. Or office sales. Canvassing is the old school phrase.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? So those types of things, they have just the way in which we could do it is more effective, more productive, more resourceful today. So using the tried and true items, and sales has been around, it's probably one of the longest professions. If you think about how you can talk to people to get them to give you time, money, energy, resources, because that's what investment is, for what you have to offer.
Yeah. Well, on that topic, I like that, like, values or principles, they never really die, right? They're kind of always there. So if you could go back in time to yourself at the beginning of your sales career when it really started, I know you had your yard sales, but I'm sure there was a time where it was like the first real sales job that you had. What book would you gift yourself?
Oh, I can tell you the ones I used. I used a lot. So you heard some of the Zig Ziglar. There were some other things like the Spencer Johnson, Ken Blanchard, Spencer Johnson types books. Steve Schiffman did a lot of cold calling books that I read a lot growing up, and some of those things. And then I kind of also turned that more into management. Like, what does good to great really mean? How do you make yourself good to great? And those things. So I did a lot of that. I also swallowed my pride, and I asked sellers. I begged sellers to give me feedback. Right. And I remember one of the days, I was selling for a year and a half. So call it 24 years of age, doing pretty well, 400 people, call center environment, top sales guys right over the cubicle, from me. And he stands up and he goes, "Scott, love it, man. You ask great questions." And I'm like, "Yeah, I do. That's great." He goes, "There's only one problem. You never let people answer it." It's like, well, what do you mean? And I was just like, so then he sat back down. So I talked to them. And then from that point forward to this day, so I'll be 50 in a few months here, right? So 26 years later, story still sticks with me. The technique that I learned then of how to ask a question and literally bite my tongue if I don't want to answer it, I will literally bite my tongue to force myself not to do it. Now, again, I trained myself, but that's how I learned it. Bite your tongue. You ask a question, blow your tongue. No one can see it. Yep. No one can hear it. Quiet. Because you want to answer it. You have to change the things in what you do. So you take out your ego and you realize, say, I always want to learn. I always want to grow. I always want to get better. I consistently ask for feedback from people today. What I do, how I do things. I always do debriefs today. Things I win, things I lose. Right? And those different types of dynamics. And I think what I also do is I coach a lot of people for free that are people that will put in the effort and do the time. So I'm constantly testing and validating the practices that I bring to make sure they're right. So if you want free coaching, go, hey, hit me up. Right? I'll get to do it. You put in the work, you put in the effort. I won't charge you. And I'll let you talk to some of my other coaches. You're going to put in the work, you're going to put in the effort, and those types of things, you'll get some great results. And on that note, I will say I'm really excited to say I just got a call last week from one of my guys. He closed a very large deal that we were talking about, and it's not only making him the number one rep, but it's going to put him at $1 million in commission this year. And we're
that's awesome. Good.
Yeah,
feels amazing when you're able to coach people like that to that level, right?
Well, why I love it, I've been working with this guy for 5 years. Before he's a BDR, he changed jobs, got a good company, and just wanted to excel. And so we've been doing that. He's also now going to be out of debt. He's going to be able to buy, rings and stuff for his soon-to-be fiance, hopefully, right? And now we're starting to talk about how he can start to invest in himself. And this is a guy who's a former Olympian athlete. As a matter of fact, he couldn't get into the Olympics because he got injured, so his roommate went in and got silver. In the sledding where you go down feet first. I think it's I'm going blank. It's not skeleton, but you get the gist. But he's this guy who has. No, it's not bobsledding. It's actually on like the flat, lying on your back.
Oh shit! Oh, the luge.
Right? You luge. Thank you, luge. Right? And but the cool part is, I started to work with him. And I understand. Listen, the culture of who you are, extreme sports, and the reason you couldn't do it is because you had an injury. But if you do one thing wrong, it's a matter of life or death for you, right? And so when I understood how he put that into a sales environment and how I could calm him down when he thought things were too stressed, how I keep him focused and in control, so just like he was doing luge. And so you can understand those different types of dynamics. And I think that's where we get into when push comes to shove, you're still dealing with people. You need to understand your people. And so a lot of times when I'm coaching, I understand what the people are like. And so those who are athletes have a different type of motivation. Doesn't make it more or less, but there's motivations you can go out there and play and drive to. But they have the process. They have the structure. Good. You've excelled so much in that. I just got to show you how to apply same step or same types of steps, different steps for sales, for luge. But if you can break those things down, you can have significant success. And that's what, a rep like that did. He's done, tremendously well. And I love getting calls on the weekends like, I can't believe it happened. And just hearing the excitement in someone's voice is what pumps me up.
That's awesome. All right. Well, around here, we like crazy brain drop ideas. And so what is the wildest sales strategy that you've ever heard of or you've used yourself?
Brutal honesty. It's a tactic that I've created. You can read about it later in my book. Brutal honesty. When situations are really difficult, very ambiguous, right? And a great example, think of a cold call, right? We go out there and do it. There's probably something people say, why don't you just shoot me your information and I'll take a look at it. And what do people typically say? Sure. What type of information would you like, Sean? Hey, Joshua, I can go out there and say, can you help me? Let me know. You want this type of information? They're great. I'll send it to you. Can I call you back next week? Joshua's going to say, sure. But not waiting around for my call. That's not helping anyone. It's not doing anything. It's just creating a cycle. So go brutal honesty. Hey, I can send you information, but typically when I do that, Joshua, that means people are just trying to get me off the phone, and it probably just goes into a bucket that either gets deleted or filed away, never to seen from again. That doesn't help you. Do you mind if I just take 2 minutes? Let me tell you why people in your shoes, in your industry, want to hear from me, and then you can tell me to get lost from there if you think that doesn't work for you. That's brutal honesty. Right? And I think people forget how important it is to be brutally honest. Now, like I said, I wasn't rude. I wasn't disrespectful. And I wasn't just kind of honest. I was brutally honest. It means it's probably going to be just put into a delete folder, right? Or a file folder, never to be seen from again. I don't know how that's going to help you. And then, God forbid, the last thing I want you to do is ask you to read 5-10 minutes of something that doesn't pertain to you. That's just a waste. That's not how I operate. I'm here to help. And so I think it's those types of dynamics of being brutally honest that people come to play. Where people struggle with that is they don't have the comfort and the confidence to really be able to say those things in a way that's productive and actually effective for your client. Right? They think I need to go out there and play a game and do these types of things. I'll send you the information. Great. Even things like people like, oh, I love that in your demo. You know what sales reps always do when they hear, oh, that's cool, that's great, wow. They skip it. Joshua, what did you like about that? That made you say, oh, wow. Sean, so this is the second time I've heard you say, hey, that's really cool. What is it about that that's really cool? That's something you're not getting today? Is there something that you think it's really impactful? Help me understand so I can make sure I understand what was really cool about it. That's a form of getting really brutally honest with what's out there. So I really understand those different dynamics, because ambiguity of, oh, that's really cool, or that's really good, I don't know what the hell that means. Ask. Engage your clients. And so if you have to, I would say really focus on how do I become brutally honest with my clients. If I'm really hearing what they say, how do I make sure I really hear it, listen, understand? You understand kind of what I'm saying by that. And so I'm not just following a script or following something that I need to go out there and do. How do I really make sure I can dive into that to help hear and then be able to talk about where we're at in a very blunt, open, honest type of environment. If people don't want to use me, fine, great. Don't use me. I'm not going to sit here and chase you and spend the time to go out there and do it.
Yeah. That's a great answer. All right. For somebody just starting a sales team, Scott, what is one thing they need to focus on the most to master first if they're just starting a sales team?
Just starting a sales team. So from a sales management perspective.
Yep.
Okay. So not like we're starting a company like the product market fit. So taking that one different. So if you're just starting a sales team from a sales management perspective, one of the biggest gaps that I've seen is sales managers not knowing how to identify the skills that a seller needs to have in their current environment. So sales managers might be good coaches of, hey, put me in the deal with you. I love selling. I can close anything. Or, great, here's where you're at. Next, you need to go to legal. And because they were a sales rep there, they know how to get into legal or to contracts, and they're great at telling you next steps. Doesn't mean anyone's been understands what skills you need to go out there and do, how you need to do those skills, when you should be doing those types of skills throughout the sales process to be effective as possible. And so I do a lot of not just training, but also coaching the managers on how do you become a better coach? And how do you look for opportunities to always be coaching? That's the ABCs in my mind. It's not always be closing. It's how do I always be coached, or how do I always be coaching? Right? Because we have
beautiful. Say that again for everybody. Say that again for everybody.
Right? And it's funny. I think it's actually the last chapter in my book too. Right? But the ABCs is always be coached and always be coaching. And if you think about the best people that we idolize, actors, right? Sports figures, think about how many coaches an individual athlete has. Take a golfer. I mean, an individual athlete versus a team, but even teams have, baseball teams have pitching coaches. They have, health coaches, like they have the gentleman. There's so many different ways in which we have coaches. We break down our film. We look at what we need to go out there and do. Soccer players go on there, or football players go on the field. They do the same drills every time. We don't do that as sellers more often than not. We hop on a call unprepared. We don't go out there and do those things. We don't get challenged to do things better. And I don't just mean coaching needs to become from my manager. Peer-to-peer coaching is great. I highly encourage peer accountability partners. And some of my companies have called it, and I'll give a shout out to my agency block team, accountability buddies is what they would call it. Accountability buddies. Right? I want you guys to work on a specific skill, or I want you to break down this call, or. How are we going to go out there and be effective? Spend 30 minutes or 60 minutes a week with your accountability buddy, with your accountability partner. How do I really want to go out there and grow things? And accountability partner says, hey, Joshua, you said you were going to go out there and do this. Do it. Sean, you told me you were going to do X, Y, and Z. Where are you with it? Great. How did you do that? How did you work? You know what? I think I could do that. Let me try it on you. Cool. Great. Right. So that's how we can grow as a team and everything else, but also help you push yourself to be going forward. So there's lots of ways to be coached, and there's lots of ways to do coaching. And so that's why I really try to focus on how do we help drive things to practically adopt. As much training as I've done, and I think I've said earlier, I trained 20,000 plus sellers and sales leaders over the last 2+ decades. I don't think training solves the issue. I think training gives you information. How you practically apply it and use it in your day-to-day is what you need to get to. And that's why I'm very focused on that. And again, every chapter of my book finishes with 1, a rep action plan, and 2, a manager coaching plan. Because I want you to be able to go out there and adopt it. If someone says, hey, Scott, I read your book cover to cover, I'll be like, great. I'd much rather someone say, hey, Scott, I read 2 chapters on your book. I instituted those sales skills so well. I have seen significant improvement in how I can execute across those. And then, of course, I'd follow up, well, great. Is it impacting your sales, impacting your customers, right? But if they can go out there and really improve upon those skills, that's where you get significant growth.
I love that. Yeah. That's really freaking good. Thank you for sharing that, Scott.
Pleasure.
I guess we're kind of getting closer to the end here, but we work with a lot of smaller businesses, blue collar businesses, etc. So if you could give them one thing that they could do like today to improve their sales processes, what would it be that you would have them focus on?
Probably the best thing I could probably tell you to do is really sit down and think about your customer interactions, right? What are they? Is it when you first meet them or first connect with them to first meet them to getting out there? You have these different types of stages, right? Yeah. Whatever you want to call it. I like to think of it as interactions. So it gets off the complexity of what's our sales stages and kind of it doesn't have to be technical. Think about your interactions. They found me somehow through some sort of marketing channel or through word of mouth or great. Now, how do I engage? How do I help them? So within each one of those interactions, ask yourself, what is it I need to do? Yep. How can I do it best? How do I leave this interaction to get to the next interaction I want to go out there and get? So when people tell me I got to work on closing, well, you need to close for each interaction, right? So a typical SaaS you also mentioned, but we also mentioned things like a roofer. A roofer's got to get out there and see it, feel it, touch it, and get the buy-in from the different people. Maybe they can do all that in one meeting, and they go out there and they drive it, and they give the quote and the pricing that goes out there and drives it. But they might say, hey, I only closed 30% of those. Well, if you don't do anything else, what else could you do to have a better interaction point? Maybe post that, or maybe even within that. So example for me, I don't have lots of meetings with a lot of people before they say, Scott, you're I want to work with. It is 1 to 4 meetings. I know if I don't get to that third meeting and wow them with something different that I haven't already told them, I'm not going to win. Unless I know them and I already have an inside track. But if they don't know me and I'm just some other guy, I need to do something to really wow them. So I'm very good at taking notes, understanding the detailed pains and how I can go out there and do it. And I actually proactively try to say, hey, one thing I feel we could be missing is X, Y, and Z. I'd love to show, and I get the right decision makers to help push that because I know that needs to be a clear next step. So as I finish meeting 2, if I don't think I have a clear path forward, then I will make that my clear path forward. If there is a clear path forward, then fine. I've already gotten those different pieces to quote unquote win the deal. Now I just need the contractual side. So I'm very clear with those 2 inflection points. I need to finish a certain point. And I would encourage anyone who's trying to run a business for themselves, the more you can maximize the interactions that you have, the better. And the more you do a better job with that, really effective. And even take it to the extreme, meaning a lot of people think, oh, I did this, I roofed, I got the information, I closed it, it was great. Any other neighbors around there that you can also go out there and help? Hey, to help offset some of the costs, Sean, do you have any other neighbors around here? Do you notice you're in a connected building? If I do this, I might be able to help you bring down your costs. Anyone else in the local area that you think I may be able to go out there to? If so, I can give you a $500 kickback by the time we finish. If they sign up with me, I have a referral program for you. A lot of people forget, what do I really want to achieve and what can I really go out there and do? So I also encourage people to ask this final question. If everything went perfectly in this interaction, what would I sell them? A lot of people think, oh, I got the meeting. No, I got the meeting with the right person, intrigued, ready to go, begging me to get out there and have that next step with them so quickly because they're so intrigued. If whatever you want to really happen, not just get this roofing contract, but I want to get the referrals and other things they can go out there and do. If you don't manifest that throughout the sales process, they'll never get it. So think about perfection. So you know what you want to go out there and do. And then with each of those interactions, what actions, what tools, resources can I show to help make it effective? Right? And how do I know when I finish that? Exit criteria, if you will. How do I know when I finish that to know what I want to get to the next step? So if you go back to those 3 things with the overarching idea of I got to make sure in this interaction, if everything went perfectly, I could wave a magic wand, what would I want so I can manifest that to come to life?
I like that. Each stage has a close. You should put that on.
Each stage has a close.
I think that's one of my big takeaways. I love that. That just kind of shifted my framework a little bit in my own mind. So that's awesome. Put it on a t-shirt or else I'm going to do it.
It's actually already.
Scott, let us do it.
Nice. But it's interesting. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm here to listen to you.
So it's funny when you talk about those things. So there's a tactic that I have called a right now contract. Where am I right now in this sales process that I want to make sure I can get the right type of engagement for you that we can move forward in agreement? And I do it a few different ways. One, when you set up meetings, you start the meetings, and then you repeat it. How do I finish that meeting to set up the next meeting, right? To then start the meeting and go forth from it. And so as you start to go through different pieces, and especially in things, like a BDR cold call, where you're reaching out to someone, right? Especially if you're doing things in the SaaS world. A lot of people, BDRs will stop as, oh, I got, Sean here to say he'll take a meeting. Great, Sean, we'll do it Thursday, 2:00. Thank you, invite's coming. Boom, bye. That's not perfection. It's not just getting the meeting. But that's how we have ingrained ourselves to think about it. How do I get Sean so excited that he invites Joshua to come with him? Because I don't want to just sell to Sean. I want to sell to everyone that can go out there and do it. How do I get more people to buy into it? So if I know hey, I can go out there and do this. Is there anyone else that's really critical to X, Y, and Z that you think should be a part of it? No one else? Okay, good. I was reaching out with Joshua, Sean. Is he not the right person? Oh, he is? Well, maybe we can invite him too. If I send it to you, would you mind sending it? Because he'll take it coming from you, but he hasn't responded to my stuff yet. Understandably, I'm an interruption in this day. But if you see it as the right thing, then maybe we could do it. Are you comfortable doing that? So again, it goes back to a little bit of my brutal honesty aspects, but it's also about having the vision of what I want to go out there and do. And in my right now contracts, I want to make sure everything I want to go out there and do, I got to make sure it comes to life. Great. Now I'll finish that. When I meet with the two of you, here's what I want to make sure that we can do. We can talk about your realms of your business. And then I want to show you how we've helped people in your industry, in your dynamic, solve this. At the end of that meeting, you should know if I'm a good person to work with or not. And we can determine what you want to do with it from there. So I don't have to spell it all out. Even when I start meetings, you talk the same way. Hey, at the end of this meeting, I hope you can walk away with really understanding what it is I do and see if I'm a right fit for you. And if so, we can determine what right fit means at the end. But I then make sure at the last 5 minutes, it's not, hey, do you have any questions? Let me answer anything. And it's definitely not cramming in 20 minutes of a demo in the last 5 minutes. That's just a recipe for failure. It's about recapping. Here's what I heard us talk about. Here's how I heard your needs. Here's how I position myself. So your needs tied to what I do. And then get that ability to move forward. I wanted to make sure to start off, do you think I'm the right person for you to work with? I don't feel we've covered enough, but if you feel I'm going to the right part, we should probably have another meeting to go through X, Y, and Z. How does that feel? If I did go through enough, I want to make sure you can understand that. Do you feel like you got me enough where you can understand if I'm the right person for you to make a decision with or not? Cool. Any idea what that decision might be? Right. So you can go out there and be a lot more comfortable in your dialogues because I know where I want to take it. And the tactic of a right now contract will help you go out there and do that. So for me, when you talk about processes and sales skills, it's about breaking down some of these key sales skills. And that's probably one of 4 or 5 main sales skills that I've seen sellers use that make them exceptional, from average sellers to exceptional sellers.
Well, Scott, what's next for you? And you got any new projects in the works right now?
I'm working on 2 different book ideas. One of them is definitely on coaching and those different types of dynamics. So I've actually been reaching out to a lot of my network and asking how people think about coaching. What do they go out there and do? Not just the managerial level, the rep level, but also executive level, because they're the ones who have to put forth the focus, the energy, the drive, the resources. And so it's really interesting to see some of these different discussion points that I'm having with different leaders. And it's interesting, some of the follow-up that there's a couple things I'll ask them to look at and to do, and I do a follow-up with it. And it almost always comes back to the same of the gaps that we have. So I think it's about how we go out there and be better coaches and better help our people to be more effective is definitely something that I'm definitely working on as well. And there are some things on the AI front that I'm also working on as well.
Okay.
That are
you want to share that?
Well, I'll say it like this. I have a certain expertise to help people understand how do they maneuver through the sales process and everything else. And there's technology that I could train to understand what we need to do and how we need to go out there and drive different pieces, right? So there's different nuances that are out there. It is not a cheap process to build it, right? And some of those different dynamics, but I've been working with, I'll say, a technology vendor and getting some sponsorships from other technology vendors to kind of do some minimal viable products. It's definitely a ways off, And I don't know if it's going to necessarily work because I do see how other established players, if they choose, could very well be much quicker to market and have much stronger technology backing than I have. I don't see anyone going down that path. But even if I don't build the software, it's giving me great insight on how we can go out there and leverage data technology to help make the tools that we use more effective for our day-to-day. And that's where I think I've been really good at helping people over the last 20, 30 years. It's not just the sales process, but how do we use tools? How do we use technology? How do we use information in a way to help make me more effective? And so I'm just looking at what's always on the forefront. So I'm never irrelevant. I don't want AI to replace me and you're talking to an AI Scott Kaplan in 10 years. I want to make sure I'm always part of the conversation. And it goes back to my need to help. I need to be needed. I need to help people. I need to get involved. It is a strength as well as a weakness of mine from that need. But those are things that I just want to make sure that I do. So I'm always kind of keeping myself focused on that.
That's awesome. Well, where can our listeners find you and get more sales tips and strategies?
Well, you can always go to LinkedIn, find Scott Kaplan, Kaplan on LinkedIn. Quick Hit Sales Tips is the book. It's the website. Scott at Quick Hit Sales Tips is the email address. Always drop me a line. If you tell me that you came from this podcast, hey, I heard you from Josh, heard you from Sean, heard you from Brain Drop. Great. You get a free coaching session. If you so desire, if you want more free coaching sessions, you put in the work, you do those different things. I'm here to help people. And so as long as I can help, let's make it work.
All right. Thank you, Scott.